I'm talking with Kathy DeRosa at OCLC about OCLC's research on perceptions of libraries and the Geek the Library campaign, which has been a major foray into library advocacy via social media. So I'd like to begin by asking you, Kathy, how did the Geek the Library campaign originate?
Thank you, Wendy. It's a pleasure to get to discuss this today because I get very excited about advocacy, as you know. So I've had the good fortune to be at OCLC for over a decade now. And during my time here, one of the consistent themes has been across the community, what can we do together to better advocate and share all the fabulous things going on in libraries? And particularly interesting to me is how do we fund that? And how do we get the message into resourcing? So how it got started is based on some very generous support from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to do some research, to look at what do people know about libraries, what do they think about advocating for libraries. While they might love the libraries, why aren't we being more active in libraries, and what could we do to change that? So as we do often here at OCLC, we like to gather a bit of research that directs our work. So we did some studies, and I know you've shared some of those in your readings, thank you, of this course. And then after we finished the research, we said, this is fabulous. We have some wonderful data. We are just itching to find out, can we put it into practice? And again, I must say, thanks to some very generous support from the Gates Foundation, they said, yes, let's run some pilots. So how the project came to be was, can we take, and I'll share just a couple fundamentals of the research, and can we put them into action? What we learned when we went out and asked folks about advocating for libraries, we knew very clearly that regardless of the conversation we were having about all the fabulous things going in libraries, what was going on in the back of their mind was books, 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 books. I remember when I was a kid, traditional views. So while they might love the library, they were struggling a little bit with the current library. So we wanted to understand just a bit more about, how do we update that and how do we get activity. So when we launched the pilot, one of the things we knew for sure is that we had to get a program or an activity that left the four walls of the library or the mini walls of the library and got out into the community to let people tell their stories. Because what we learned in the research is people don't know a lot about what's going on in the library, but if they can talk about it and if they can share their stories, they get incredibly excited about the transformational things that happen in libraries. So how the program got started was, let's take those learnings and let's put a campaign and a program together to make a difference.
So what have we learned in the course of actually operating this Geek the Library campaign?
Yes, fabulous. Just a few numbers. We launched the campaign in 2010. We've had 1,600 libraries, most of them public libraries, participate in 48 of the 50 states. We're not quite there, but we're going to make that happen before we're done, all 50. And then most recently, some libraries in Germany and some libraries in the Netherlands have participated in the campaign. So we've got many, many, many learnings that we're delighted to share. So among the things that we have learned when we're out and about is that people are, I want to say, overwhelmingly enthusiastic about participating in the program. So we have an active Facebook page, we have an active Twitter stream, we have people volunteering their videos, their time, and their energy. So part of the thing about advocacy is let's not be afraid to ask, because if you ask, they want to participate. One of the other things that we've learned is that people aren't really quite sure how to get that voice out. So part of that campaign is to put together some, fundamental aspects or some building blocks of advocacy that we can use, that we can share, and then we can measure. So what we've learned is that advocacy and social media programs and advocacy aren't that much different than anything else that we've learned to do effectively in our libraries, and that is define our strategy, be sure we know what our goals are, pick the key messages that we want to share, and then talk about how we're doing. And I know that sounds so fundamental, but it's things we all know how to do. So, let's apply them as well. What we've also learned is that the best type of advocacy, of course, and things, again, that we know but have been able to prove out, are not stories that we're telling, of course, but they're stories that the communities are telling, right? Advocacy about libraries can't be about libraries. It has to be about the community and our context in the community. So we know that, but the best way to illustrate that is to let people share their stories and the impact or the transformation, and I come back to that because that, of course, is what we're about every day, is transformation, the transformation that has occurred. I often say to people that if you're in a meeting and the only person that's speaking on behalf of the library is the librarian or the library person they're representing the library, we have not achieved what we're trying to do. So one of the things we've learned is we've got to give folks mechanisms where they can do that and ways to share, to encourage them to share that voice. So we've learned a lot about engagement. We've learned a lot about simple project management rules. And we've learned the other thing that we know that librarians are great at is sharing ideas. And this has been a grassroots campaign since the very beginning, and it's only been successful because the community has shared what we've learned. So if you are interested in some specifics about this program, we have a, go sign up. Even if you're not going to run it, go sign up for the program. We have a campaign management center. We have statistics. We have learning. We have measurement. Send us an email, and that's one of the most exciting things, is just really been the body of knowledge that we've been able to share about advocacy.
And speaking of sharing, thank you for sharing this great experience from which we can all learn so much with this great international community of participants in this MOOC. We will put the references on the course site so that people can follow those links, can get in touch with the campaign, and can see it in greater detail. Thank you very much, Kathy.
My pleasure, Wendy.